Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today, doing the what's next on undefeated middleweight contenders Janibek, whatever you want to call him, Alimkhanuly, or better known as Kazakh Style, his nickname. This is one of my guys right here. I like this guy a lot. And I'm gonna tell you why in a minute. But this dude's name is hard as fuck to pronounce. But I got this dude. He's got my full support, and he's a badass. He's a middleweight contender on the rise. He's undefeated, and he's had a hell of a year. On the Crawford Porter undercard, he took on former two-time champion Hassan N'Dam and dominated N'Dam and stopped him in the 8th round. And what are you supposed to do against an older fighter like N'Dam but dominate him and stop him? That's exactly what he did. So very happy this dude got a win. And the big question now is what's next for Alimkhanuly or Kazakh Style following this victory. We're going to run through the top 10, but one thing I want to stick out is Alimkhanuly knows what he wants to do next. This guy straight up went, following the win, just a couple days later, he went and did a formal request to the WBO to allow him to become the mandatory #1 contender to fight undefeated Demetrius Andrade for the WBO middleweight championship of the world. And I couldn't be more excited and happy because this is going to put Andrade on notice that if he cannot get a big name opponent next, which doesn't seem likely, then does he have the balls to fight Alimkhanuly, an undefeated mandatory #1 contender? We're gonna see. And the fact that nobody, quote unquote, nobody wants to fight Andrade, well, that's not the case now. You got a real deal threat who's coming off of a victory over Rob Brandt, who's a former champ and was still a top 10 middleweight coming into this year. And Alimkhanuly dominated him and stopped him in 9 rounds. And then he follows that up with an 8-round stoppage of former two-time champ Hassan N'Dam. So this dude is very legit, and he has everybody on notice. So let's run through the top 10 now. I got Alimkhanuly at like number 8 or 9 right now. I haven't fully redone my middleweights, but they're I know who they are. It's just I need to redo all of them by the end of the year. And you know, my year-end top 10s are coming up, but let's run through the top 10 fighters at middleweight right now and see what could be next for Kazakh Style Janibek Alimkhanuly following his win over Hassan N'Dam. So we start with number 1, Triple G. Now they're both from Kazakhstan. You would love to see that, but Triple G just has so many other options right now that it wouldn't make sense for him to fight Alimkhanuly, you know, in his next fight. It just wouldn't make sense. And you know, I don't see this one being possible at all. Triple G is either going to have 1 or 2 mandatories due, or they're going to give him the option to fight Canelo, if Canelo wants to fight, obviously, or Jaime Munguia if Munguia wants to fight. So if Triple G gets by Ryota Murata at the end of this month, which most people feel he will, I highly doubt he's going to be interested in fighting his countryman, Alimkhanuly. But I would love to see the fight. I just don't think it happens. Number 2, Jermall Charlo. Charlo is going to run scared, as he always does. Outside of the Derevyanchenko fight, this guy is going to stay clear of any middleweight in the top 10 that is not going to bring in a shitload of money or fights for the PBC. You know, obviously that's all this guy wants to do, Charlo, is cherry pick and fight absolutely nobodies or just take on guys that you know, that are big names like Canelo, because he doesn't really seem to want to fight even some of the guys in the PBC, you know, but he definitely is calling Canelo out. So Charlo is never going to give a guy like Kazakh Style an opportunity in his next fight. Plus, it's top rank working with PBC. Just highly doubt that happens. Now, number 3 is the undefeated WBO champion, Demetrius Andrade. Andrade, I think that it's in all likelihood, if Andrade stays at 160, he's going to have to fight Kazakh Style. I think they're going to approve of that because I believe Jaime Munguia is going to go after the WBC's mandatory title shot against Sergey Derevyanchenko. I think he'll go after an eliminator with him, and that'll leave the WBO with no choice but to upgrade Alimkhanuly to the number 1 spot, and they'll mandate him to fight Andre. And Andre's going to have to make a choice, you know, either if he can't get a big fight, which is not likely, at 160, and if he can't, you know, at 168 either against Canelo, he either drops his title and moves up and fights for the title there at 168, or he stays at 160 and takes on Kazakh style. I believe it right now. I'm about 50-50 this fight happens, and I really hope it does. So we'll see. Number 4 is Jaime Munguia. He's technically number 1 in the WBO, so it would make a lot of sense if he fought Kazakh style, but I doubt he does. I just don't see Munguia wanting to get in line to fight Demetrius Andrade when he can fight Derevyanchenko, whose style fits his way more, is better known, and that could lead to Charlo, whose style fits him way better. You know, or if Munguia wants, he could probably go get Triple G if Triple G gets by Ryota Murata, as long as Triple G doesn't have to make a mandatory defense following the Murata fight. So there's a lot of things on the table right here for Munguia, and I just don't think he's going to take on a guy like Kazakh style next. Number 5 is Arizona Lara, the WBA regular champion. Highly doubt it. He's with the PBC. He's also technically a mandatory challenger for the winner of Triple G and Ryota Murata. So he's got big fights. Plus, he wouldn't make the fight anyways, top rank working with PBC, unless it was a mandatory fight with Kazakh style. So I don't see that one. Number 6 is Sergey Derevyanchenko. He's in line to fight for the WBO, the WBC's mandatory number 1 shot. I highly doubt the PBC gets together with Top Rank to make this fight for any reason, so I'm not seeing it. Now, number 7, I either have Kazakh style. I have Kazakh style floating between 7, 8, and 9, but the other 2 guys that are floating around him are WBA champion Ryota Murata. That fight's not possible. Murata's fighting Triple G next, and to be honest, if he beats Triple G and a rematch with Triple G doesn't happen, then he probably is going to have to make 1 to 2 mandatory title defenses. But if for some reason he didn't, I wouldn't be surprised if Murata and Alimkhanuly got together, just because they're both linked with Top Rank. So that would make sense, but I don't see the fight happening next, sadly. And then the other guy between 7 and 8 is Chris Eubank Jr. Highly doubt it. He's fighting Liam Williams in January and is trying to land a big fight after that. I don't think he gets together with Bob Arum and Top Rank and makes a fight with Alimkhanuly. Dude's just undefeated and can give him too much trouble. I think stylistically he wouldn't want that fight. And then number 10 is Luis Arias, coming off the win over Jarrett Hurd, the upset earlier this year. He's a PBC guy, so I doubt PBC and Top Rank get together. So for me, realistically, top 10 guys, I think Kazakh style is gonna fight Andre next. I really believe that's the fight that is gonna happen. And if it doesn't, and Andre is ducking, then Kazakh style might have already worked himself into a vacant world title shot if Andre uses the excuse that he's either trying to mandate a fight with Canelo by moving up to 168 next, you know, because Canelo holds the WBO title at 168, and the rules state for the WBO champions that if you drop your belt in one division and move up, you can fight for that same world title in another division. So that, you know, he might play that card to either go up and fight somebody else less threatening, or to get a big fight to try to force a Canelo fight. So if Andre does that, then Kazakh style could be fighting for a vacant title, or he could be taking on Andre. So I think the future is bright for Kazakh style, Janibek, Alimkhanuly, and that's his what's next. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.